Hi, Vencore Weather meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Monday, November 10th. A mild start to the week here in the Mid-Atlantic region. In fact, it'll stay mild right into Wednesday, but then big changes are on the way. Arctic air today is plunging into the northern U.S. Some dramatic temperature changes expected out in the Rockies. We'll talk about that in a moment or two between yesterday and tomorrow as this Arctic air first plunges into the northern Rockies, then the northern plains. It will be accompanied by some significant snowfall over the next 24 hours or so in places like Minnesota and Wisconsin. Minneapolis could certainly pick up a half a foot to a foot of snow over the next 24 hours as the Arctic air plunges into the northern U.S. Will turn noticeably colder here on Thursday, and once that cold pattern sets up on Thursday, it looks like it'll lock in for a while. We'll stay cold right through the upcoming weekend into the early part of next week, and then another, perhaps even colder Arctic air outbreak will head into our direction by the early or middle part of next week. Well, a lot of this activity has been initiated by the development of a superstorm over the weekend in the Bering Strait. This is the very latest infrared satellite image of the western Pacific. This is the western part of Alaska right here, the Aleutian Island chain right in this region. And this is what remains of that superstorm. A circulation can be seen here. And again, it's considerably weaker than what occurred early Saturday morning. In fact, the pressure was unofficially recorded as low as 924 millibars by the Ocean Prediction Center. That's equivalent to 27.25 inches of mercury. One of the strongest storms out in that part of the country in the last 30 years or so. It's a little difficult to get an exact measurement of the surface pressure, the central pressure of a storm like that when it's over water, as this storm was early Saturday morning, but certainly looks like it bottomed out at levels perhaps in the top 3 or 4 storms in that part of the world over the last 30 years or so. This is in fact how the surface map looked Saturday morning, and here is that superstorm again, unofficially down to 924 millibars. This is Alaska right in this region right in here, and the Aleutian Islands right in this region right here. Again, the west coast of Alaska right here. Perhaps one of the 3 or 4 most powerful storms in terms of central barometric pressure in the last 30 years or so, and it has set off a chain of events in the upper part of the atmosphere that will lead to not one but multiple Arctic air outbreaks into the central and eastern U.S. over the next couple of weeks. Well, here's the latest surface map, and here indeed is the plunge of Arctic air anchored by a very strong high pressure system, still well up in Canada at this point, but this could reach 1060 millibars over the next 24 hours or so. Arctic air is about to plunge into Denver, Colorado. Big dramatic changes for that part of the Rocky Mountain states. They were in the 70s yesterday, and by tomorrow night they'll be down near zero. The next couple of nights, Tuesday night and Wednesday night, down near zero. Just a dramatic temperature change there, and that will be accompanied by some accumulating snow. The heaviest accumulating snow looks like it'll fall in this area over the next 12 to 24 hours or so, perhaps 6 to 12 inches. Places like Minneapolis, Minnesota, in the central part of Minnesota, the northern part of Wisconsin, as the Arctic front slowly pushes to the south and east. Again, we'll stay mild here into the day on Wednesday. Wednesday is when the Arctic front slides through, and it'll become noticeably colder here on Thursday. Well, let's talk about this upcoming pattern change. We'll first look at the 500 millibar level. This is about 18,000 feet or so. This is the current look at the 500 millibar pattern here. Notice a ridge starting to form out here along the west coast of North America. We talked again about the teleconnections between the superstorm and the Bering Strait that formed a very deep trough out in that part of the Pacific Ocean, the northern Pacific Ocean. Then that downstream forms a strong upper level ridge along the west coast, and in turn you get some troughing here in the central and eastern U.S. The first push of this air is certainly into the northern Rockies. Here's a strong wave, and again, Denver right in this region right here. In the 70s yesterday, will be down near zero tomorrow night with some accumulating snow in the interim, and a stripe of accumulating snow in this region right here, western Great Lakes all the way to the Rockies, centered on the heaviest centered on central Minnesota and northern Wisconsin. Let's now take a look at the 500 millibar pattern later in the week. And here's the forecast map from last night's Zero-Z GFS model run for Friday morning. A couple main features I want to point out here. Notice basically a cutoff, kind of a high pressure ridge here along the west coast, and this will be sitting out there for quite a while, and the combination of that and this low, perhaps you can call this a piece of the polar vortex, which stays well up in Canada, by the way. The combination of these two just will flood the southern part of Canada with Arctic air, and that in turn pushes right into the northern part of the U.S. We will have a decent little trough here in the eastern part of the country by Thursday night, Friday time frame associated with that initial push of Arctic air. And there can be some snow shower activity in the I-95 corridor Thursday night and Friday morning. Does not look significant, and the bigger story will be the influx of the Arctic air. Once that arrives on Thursday, it looks like it'll lock in, but quite a few shifts in the overall pattern that was initiated by this superstorm of the Bering Strait over the weekend. Well, let's now look at a few forecast maps from last night's Zero-Z GFS model run at the surface level. We'll look at tomorrow morning, Tuesday morning, and then Wednesday morning and Thursday morning. Still very mild here. In fact, Tuesday looks like it'll be the warmest day of the week. High temperatures in D.C., Philadelphia, New York City, well up in the 60s, perhaps as high as 65 or 67 in some spots. The cold air, again, first pours into the central part of the country, then it kind of spills out or slowly oozes into the northeastern part of the country during the latter part of the week. Let's jump ahead another 24 hours. And here's the forecast map for Wednesday morning. By this time, that Arctic front is sliding through the middle Atlantic region. Colder air starting to push in here. We'll have increasing northwest winds late Wednesday night, and by Thursday it'll certainly be noticeably colder around here. And again, that cold air all the way down to the south central part of the country. Denver stays bitterly cold throughout much of the week. Again, bottom out at near zero tomorrow night, and again on Wednesday night. Let's now jump ahead another 24 hours. And here's the forecast map for Thursday morning, and by this time temperatures are dropping noticeably colder here. We'll have highs only in the 40s. There is an area of moisture out here in the Gulf of Mexico early Thursday. That does ride up to the north and east, and again there can be some snow shower activity in the I-95 corridor Thursday night into early Friday. Does not look significant. The bigger story will be the influx of Arctic air, and this is just the beginning. It stays cold right through the upcoming weekend into the early part of next week, and then perhaps even a colder air mass will arrive for the eastern two-thirds of the nation by the early and middle part of next week. So big changes on the way, mild right into Wednesday, and then the winter cold pattern sets up on Thursday, and it looks like it locks in for a while. That's it for now. For VencoreWeather.com, I'm meteorologist Paul Dorian.